Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm with Kate again today and we're going to talk about our birth story. So if you didn't know already, Jack is here, if you can hear him in the back. He was born March 21st, 2019 at 1:19 a.m. So yeah, we're going to go talk through the birth story and then Kate will jump in if she remembers things differently. And then I'll insert clips and videos and stuff like that in between the story, and then at the end we'll answer some of the questions that you guys sent in. So yeah, on Wednesday 20th of March we were about 37 weeks and 4 days, and that night, Tuesday night, I ended up going to sleep pretty late at about 12 a.m. I should say, and that's because I was mucking around with the birth pool and stuff like that, because I just finished setting up the birth space, and so I wanted to take pictures, and I brought the birth pool just to see how everything looked. That should have been my first clue that things were going to happen. So yeah, I ended up going to bed really late. Then I woke up at 2 a.m. needing to go to the toilet, and then I couldn't get back to sleep, and so about 2:30 a.m. I started to bleed, and so I got up and I got in contact with my midwife, and she said to go to the hospital and get things checked out just in case there was something up, obviously because I was bleeding. And so I rang Kate, and Kate met me at Armidale Hospital, and there we were put on the CTG scan, and everything looked all right. The bleeding had stopped. They couldn't figure out why I was bleeding. And Trent was on night shift at the time, so I was in contact with him throughout the night as well. And so yeah, we were there for a few hours, and then they said to come back later in the day to get an ultrasound. So I asked Trent to fly home, and so he organised his flight home and stuff. And about 7 a.m. we ended up going back home. Oh yeah, my mum had come over that night to take my kids to school and stuff like that. So she was with my kids while we were at the hospital. And yeah, so got home about 7, saw the kids off to school, and then we went back at about 10 a.m. or 10:30 for the ultrasound. And again, they couldn't figure out why we were bleeding. I say we. And the ultrasound looked good. They picked up that there was calcification on the placenta, which we didn't really know what that meant at the time. And then they got good pictures of everything but the stomach. They were really struggling to find good pictures of Jack's tummy because it was so squished up in there. But they ended up taking a picture, and then we had to hang around the hospital for another couple hours to get the results. And so yeah, at about 1-ish we went up there for the results, and again they couldn't figure out why we were bleeding, and everything looked good except for the tummy. And they showed us a graph of like how from our previous scans, how the tummy growth was looking, and it had dropped off slightly, so they were a bit concerned about that, and because of that they wouldn't sign off on the home birth. And so at the time I was quite upset about that because we had planned a home birth, and yeah, so they said they wouldn't sign off on the home birth unless we did another CTG scan on Saturday, and then a CTG and ultrasound on Tuesday. And yeah, I was like, I'm not going to make it till then. I knew that we were going to go soon, so that was quite frustrating. But we ended up having a tour of the labour ward, and yeah, so we kind of just spoke to I think she was the head of the labour ward, about our situation, given it was a surrogacy, and if we could have a lot of people there, because usually you can only have 2 support people in a hospital setting. And that was my biggest concern, was that everybody could be there for the birth, and that Kate could stay after the birth if we needed to stay for a few days, whatever. But it all worked out in the end. What was I up to?
Yeah, I think it's worth saying as well that with the growth of the baby, or Jack in Michelle, we had been told previously that ultrasounds that late in a pregnancy are really unreliable when it comes to growth and size. So we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
he's not growing as he was scheduled according to this chart, but they're so unreliable, and it took them so long to get that tummy measurement, which is how they then determine the growth. So we were like, oh,
is this accurate?
Is it accurate?
Yeah.
We really want the home birth. We were pretty upset.
Yeah, we were upset, and then because throughout the day, I was talking with Emma, our doula, and Belle, and Emma was saying we should go for another second opinion. So we had booked in for the next day to go and see a different ultrasound just to see if they could get a better picture of the stomach. And so we were trying to find ways to, we're all in panic mode, being like, we really wanted this home birth. But so we ended up going home at about 2:00. Pretty upset. But then, I ended up picking up my kids from school. Trent had flown in by this time, and he had gone to his mum's house, and because it was on night shift, he was sleeping. And so, after I picked the kids up from school, I ended up driving to my mother-in-law's to get Trent. And and I forgot to mention, while we were on the CTG scan early that morning, they were picking up tightenings, like regular tightenings, but I couldn't feel them. So we were a bit like, what's going on here? But anyways.
Yeah, and I think you were saying they just felt like Braxton Hicks.
Yeah.
Like it's what you'd been having for months, weeks.
Yeah.
So you're like, it's not,
It's not painful, but they're happening. So that was another sign of we were going into labour. So when I got to my mother-in-law's house, they were coming regularly, and I think I was still in denial, being like, no, it's not happening. And then I ended up lying down for a while, ended up wanted to get some sleep because I hadn't slept, obviously. We both hadn't slept at all that day. And so I ended up lying down, and then they started to come regularly, and it started to be uncomfortable. And so I was like, damn it, this is it. It looks like we're going to labour. And so I asked Trent if we could go home because he was eating dinner at his mum's house. So at about 6:00, we ended up driving home, and I jumped in the shower straight away to try and get these contractions to go away. And they did for a little bit while I was in the shower. I stayed in the shower for quite a while. And they seemed to have dropped off. So I was like, okay, everybody chill out, go to sleep. I think, this is not happening. And so, I ended up going into bed at home and watching some Harry Potter. But then again, they started to pick up again and then coming quite regularly. So I was like, okay, here we go. This is actually happening. And so I messaged everybody and said, slowly make your way over to our house at about 9:00, I think it was. And so, everybody started to arrive, and I think it was Belle came first, and then it was Emma, and then you guys. And so we laboured at home for a little bit. I had my TENS machine on. I had pretty much like 80% of my labour, I had my TENS machine on my back, which helped a lot. I didn't have it with my first 2 pregnancies, so this time around that was really cool. I like that, just FYI. And then I ended up really like losing it at home, because obviously I still had the birth space set up, and I was quite upset that we weren't going to get the home birth. So I was sitting with Emma in the living room under my twinkly lights, just being like, why is this happening? I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but at that stage I was quite upset. But at about 11 p.m, I think we decided to head to the hospital, because they were definitely getting stronger. They were still quite far apart. I think they were about 6 minutes apart. But I definitely knew that I was going to labour, and I didn't want to be like birthing in the car or anything. So I was like, let's head to the hospital. And so I called my midwife Zoe, and obviously she couldn't come to our house because they hadn't signed off the home birth. So she said she'd meet us at Armidale Hospital. And so we headed there at about 11. We got there 11:15, and as soon as we got to the hospital, I was quite worried about not all of us being able to get into the hospital birth space because of all the restrictions or whatever, but they were really accommodating. We sort of just barged our way in though, because after hours you have to go through the emergency room, and sort of, I think I was in like the middle of the contraction as soon as we walked in the door, so I was like, oh, what's happening? And there was like a good horde of us. There was obviously me, Trent, Kate, Chris, Emma, our doula, and Belle, our photographer. So we all just sort of rocked up, and they were like, what the hell's going on?
I think it's because we're all there holding a pillow or a
blankets.
dinner. So it's all like the camping out in the hospital that night, just enjoying the ED.
And the nurse was just like, what the hell? Having to explain, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm going to labour, these are the parents. So finally we got up to the labour ward, and they put us into like the triage room, which is this tiny little box. And we wanted to wait till Zoe, our midwife, got there before going into the birth suite. And so, yeah, we were back on the CTG monitors for a little while, and Zoe took quite a long time to get there, I felt like, because she got lost too. Or it was hard for her to get in,
Right.
because she's community midwife, she doesn't work
That's
at Armidale, so it
Yeah.
took a while for her to get in. But as soon as she did an internal exam, and we were about 9 centimetres dilated at that stage. So yeah, she was like, okay, quit faffing about, let's go into the birth suite.
You did it too
That's what I was saying to you before. I was like, this is the first labour that I've been like, you can stay near me.
Oh.
It hasn't been his fault this time. I don't think so, actually. Have you met Zoe?
No, I've been away. Hi. Nice to meet you. And Emma. You've got your whole dream team around. Yeah. How do you manage to sneak everything in?
We just bunched up there.
So bad.
Yeah, feeling it all down there.
Yeah, okay. They stay pretty steady since you got her, or did you scale them up a bit with the journey?
I don't know, actually I haven't been paying attention, but they're still pretty.
I'm trying to shake them off now too, so
Hey.
I'm trying to shake them off
Yeah.
now too.
Yeah.
How are you going down okay? Yeah, I'm good.
Just chilling.
Just chilling. Yes. So excited about this.
Hurting.
I'm done. Yeah.
So yeah, we all walked to the birth suite, and I pretty much straight away jumped into the shower. And Emma and Belle did an amazing job of taking some of my birth space, like decorations and stuff. So they was busy setting up my affirmations and the fairy lights. Yeah, I remember getting to the birth suite and everyone was just like rushing around trying to put things up. But that was really nice. And so yeah, I was in the shower for a little while, and yeah, Kate was there with the shower hose thing on my back while Emma was massaging me, and then Trent was in the front of me.
Supporting and holding your
yeah.
hand. And, yeah.
So yeah, that was really nice. That was quite comforting. And then I remember turning to Emma and saying, I don't want to birth on the bed. And so they quickly moved things around. So they moved the bed around and put some mats and stuff so that I could birth on the floor. And so once I had moved out of the shower, I got down onto the mats on my knees. And then we were there for a little while. And I remember going through that stage, like being in transition and just like sobbing and like being like, I can't do this anymore, I can't do this anymore. And I knew in my head, I was like, you know, baby's coming soon, like snap out of it. And like, yeah, I had my birth affirmations right up on the wall, like where I could see. And so there was like one mantra was like, you know, you can do it. Yeah. So that would really help me. And then, yeah, it was really, like, it happened so fast. Like, all of a sudden, like, I feel like it went silent, and, like, that's when he was started to come out. And I remember just, like, holding his head as he was coming out. And, like, not even having to push. It was just, yeah, like, breathing him out. That was really cool. And then, yeah, he was born. And his cord was really, really long. And so it took me and Zoe were just like there trying to juggle him, trying to unravel this cord. And then, yeah, like I remember picking him up, and then I was just looked straight at Kate beside me, and I was like, holy shit, that just happened. And I remember just being to her and like being like, oh my God, what just happened? Just in shock, complete shock that, he was actually here. I think, because I was in quite a bit of a denial, being like, yeah. So bizarre. He looks like you. Oh my God, this is crazy. Hey, dude. Holy shit. Did you do that? Oh my goodness.
Congratulations, man.
Hey, goodness me. Oh my gosh.
He's so
He doesn't have the
he's got the nose.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, doesn't he?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Happy birthday.
Who's doing the honours?
What? And they can do it at the same time?
You do it.
You do it.
No, you do it.
You do it.
It's gonna freak me out.
Hey, if this is going to freak you out, you're in for a good
I'm in for a long shot.
Right, let me just excuse me.
You right?
I'm very keen on you. See how it's gone nice and pale there? I think full cutlets in blood now.
Goodness.
Okay, so if you want to just put the scissors between those two.
Yes,
It's
okay.
quite tough, so
Hi, little guy. That's us. Oh, my buddy.
well, maybe what I'll do is pop you on your stomach.
That's cray cray. Sorry.
Wait, hold on. I want to give her the baby.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I'm gonna definitely record.
I'm your mummy. You're stuck with me for a while. Yeah.
You just need to stay that quiet.
Okay. I think Honey Michelle took very good care of you.
Check your camera underneath the bed. You might want to touch it because that arm. Okay,
That's so
sorry.
What time was he born?
19 minutes past. 21st. Oh, I just need to get your placenta out now. So are you okay just to hop beside or something?
Yeah, boo.
And yeah, so he was born, like I said, 21st of March at 1:19 a.m., 37 weeks and 5 days, on the supermoon, which, yeah, Kate had
The
said.
equinox,
Yeah.
the autumn equinox.
Yeah, so
It's pretty crazy.
there you go.
Did you want to talk about your waters?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so while I was kneeling on the whole time, I remember in the shower and stuff, I remember feeling a lot of pressure and being like, that's my waters. And I especially with my other 2 pregnancies, they were exactly the same, where I could feel my waters like being really heavy and wanting them to burst, but I've never been able to do it myself. And both times the midwife, used the hook or whatever it is to break my waters. And so this time around, I remember being in the shower and being like, I need my waters to go. And Kate thought I was talking about her. I remember that because she moved the hose away from my back, and I was like, no.
Like, no, my water. I'm like, oh, okay, you want the water telling you.
So yeah, I remember feeling really painful that my waters hadn't broken yet. And so when we got down on the mat, I remember, all of a sudden it just burst everywhere, and I was like, oh my God, I did that myself. It was such a cool moment.
It took a while when you're on the mat for them to break as well.
Yeah.
You're in a lot of pain, and you're like, I just want them broken.
Yeah. I remember
Our
saying
midwife
over and over.
Zoe was getting prepared to get the hook, like she was getting ready
Right.
to pop them for you, because you were like, this is not okay. Just
It
burst
hurts.
them and it hurts. And
Yeah.
and then once they birthed, it was literally like 5 minutes or 10 minutes later.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed, well,
Yeah,
it seemed like
yeah.
in my
Yeah.
head. Yeah, it seemed really quick.
That's what I mean. I don't feel like I was on the mat for that long.
No.
But yeah, I remember that it took a long time to get to that point where the waters burst. And then after that, it was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Baby's coming now. Yeah.
And just that change in your, once he was born.
Yeah.
And it was like a
Instantly just
switch
snapped out of
had
it.
It was, and it was crazy. And I think for Chris and I to see, and Trent as well, I think, commented
what just
as well.
happened?
It was like Michelle had this huge personality issue. It was, she's like, oh my God, he's here. He's here. You've got a son. And it was the most amazing experience.
Yeah. I remember that,
amazing thing
literally
to do.
within seconds, I was like crying, sobbing my eyes out, and then being like, holy shit. I think that's all I just kept thinking in my head was like, this has actually just happened.
Yeah.
And I remember just holding this baby being like, oh my God. But it was so cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So we were all sitting on the floor with baby there, and to me it felt like ages, but in the video, it's only like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Because at that stage I started to lose a bit of blood, and I remember Zoe coming to me and saying, let's get this placenta out, because I had lost quite a bit of blood. So at that stage she had clamped the cord, and I remember you being having to convince Chris to cut the cord. He's like, no, you do it.
Because and all during the birth he'd kind of been a bit stepped back, because there was a lot of people there as well.
Yeah.
And he was kind of sitting on the couch far away, and we had to go, come on, when the baby was born. And there was, do you want to cut the cord? And he's like, oh, no. And we're like, no, you do it. And I think I ended up by just looking at him and going, you're doing it. Just grab the scissors and do it. And I think
That was
it was such a huge experience.
Yeah.
And it was so good for him to do it. And he really, I think he'd regret it now if he never did.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I remember that, I was holding him like this, and then, he came over and he cut the cord, and I was like, oh, that's us, we're separated now. But it was cool. And then, they pulled a chair over for Kate to come and sit down and hold baby. And I was still on the floor, and I was like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, no, come sit back down. And I was like, I'll hand baby to you now.
Yeah.
And then, as soon as that moment, I was just bawling my eyes out. I was like, oh my God, yeah. You'll see it in the video. But that was such a special moment, I think.
It's huge,
Yeah. Don't start crying.
Okay.
So as soon as I had passed Jack to you, I think that's when Zoe was like, okay, we need to really work on getting the placenta out. And so I had gotten up, I think, and gone to the toilet, and I sat on the toilet for a while Kate and Chris were doing their thing with baby, obviously still in the birth suite. And I was sitting on the toilet, and I was passing huge clots of blood. And at that time, I was just like, what the hell's going on? And I kept thinking that it was the placenta coming out, but it wasn't. It was just blood, more blood, more blood. And so Zoe was like, okay, we've got to get you on the bed to get it out. And so as soon as I stood up, I stood in the door of the toilet and I was like, whoa. And then like everything started to go really dizzy, and then I started to lose my hearing. And then I got on the bed, and then, after that, I just completely blanked out. I don't really know what was happening, but I remember there being like a lot of people around, and then Zoe was saying, okay, we've got to get the doctors in now. And then the doctor came in. I was put in the stirrups. They were trying to get the placenta out, wouldn't come. And then they decided to take me to surgery, or to theatre, I should say. So I remember them trying to put a cannula in my arm. Cannula? Catheter? Yeah, cannula. Catheter's the other one. And so, they put a catheter in my arm, and then... Oh, cannula? And then, I was... Like I said, my hearing had gone, so I didn't know really what was going on. Zoe was beside me, and then I remember Emma and Trent were around as well. But I was so out of it that I really had absolutely no idea. And then because they had given me the injection to get the placenta to come out, I started to be in a lot of pain from that. And then I started to shake as well. I don't know if it was because I was cold or I don't know what was going on, but I remember being in a lot of pain and I was shaking uncontrollably. And then I got to a point where I was like, I'm too scared. I started to close my eyes. And so I was like, I didn't want to see anything. So while they wheeled me out, I had my eyes closed the whole time because I didn't want to see. But luckily Zoe was right by my head, and she held my hand as we got into the theatre. And I just remember shaking and being like, oh, what's going on? And so I was like, you're fine, everything will be okay. And then I went under. So that was the last that I knew, and I think that was about 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so, you guys were just hanging out in the room at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really scary moment for everyone in the room. I can't remember doing skin to skin with Jack on that chair and seeing you come from the bathroom ensuite, and you had just gone completely white.
Oh, really?
And I think Zoe was with you, but Emma was behind me or something, and I just remember going Emma and her then rushing to your side as well. And it was kind of like from then on it was all hands on deck. They're like I want to say about 10 people rushed into the room, doctors and nurses and things. And they were all around you, and you're screaming out in pain because it was really painful. And just lots of injections for you, and the anaesthetist coming in, and then calling codes and things like that to get the theatre staff, because we found out as well that at the hospital they didn't have the staff on site, so they would call these codes, which would mean that their staff that worked 15 minutes around the hospital kind of gets them there a bit sooner on deck to
because I remember being like, why is it taking so long? Just put me out, knock me out, so I don't have to feel this anymore. So to me it felt like ages, but I don't think it was really that long.
No. And things like we found out afterwards that one of the injections they gave you, which is really common to do the placenta, it's like having a continuous contraction. I shouldn't be really one to talk, but from my understanding of contractions, they kind of come big intense, and then they go, so you kind of get that period of break. Whereas with this, you didn't. It was just constant.
That's what I mean. I felt like I was in way more pain at that stage than I was during the labour. So full on.
And as well, Chris and Trent had been kicked out of the room. Belle had been as well, the photographer. So it was really just me sitting on a chair with the baby, inching myself back so that in the chair, so that you guys had all enough room, so that all the staff and stuff had enough room to manoeuvre. And then there was Zoe and Emma there for you. So it was
full on.
Full on. And just watching, and I think I'd kind of gone numb at that stage, because the birth itself, I won't cry, but the birth itself was just so incredible, and also quite eye-opening to the amount of pain that birth really is. And so to see somebody that I love go through that was really scary. Scary, just the birth itself, and then to see the issues with the placenta and seeing you in that kind of traumatic place was really heartbreaking. And I think any kind of intended parent, if you that title. I think that's all of our worst case scenarios
Yeah.
is something happening.
But there's
to
no
our
way that we could
surrogate.
have known that that would have happened.
No
Yeah.
way we know.
Yeah.
And what we now know is that it's actually not uncommon for this. Like, it's not, it happens. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a rarity as
Yeah,
such. Yeah. But still, it's everyone's worst
Yeah.
case is something happening to.
Well,
the
that's what I mean. It
birth
was just
mother.
so bizarre as well because the birth was so amazing, and then all of a sudden it just went to shit. Really, it was just like, what the hell? In a matter of minutes, it was just like,
Yeah.
what happened?
It was scary,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I really feel as well for Trent, especially. He was sitting outside, not knowing anything that's going on. Nurses aren't telling him
Yeah.
anything. That breaks.
Yeah,
my
that's what
heart.
I mean.
And all he's hearing is like codes being called, like code blues and code reds and all these other codes, and he's like, what's going on? And
Yeah. For me, that's why I've said this so many times, that like for me it wasn't that traumatic because I was knocked out pretty quickly. Whereas for Trent, he had to sit there and be like, what the hell is happening? He had no idea, and then to see me. So after I'd been knocked out and had gone through the surgery, at about 5 a.m. they said he could go and see me down in ICU. And I think they had told him that I was awake.
yeah.
Yeah, so when he
Well,
went...
that you would be awake
Right,
at that time.
but I hadn't been, I was still sedated. So when he went down there to see me, I was completely knocked out still, lying on a bed in ICU with tubes coming out of me, like wires everywhere. And so I think that was really hard for him as well. He's saying that was really, really scary because he wasn't prepared for that at all. So he saw me at 5 a.m. and then they said that they would wake me up at about 8 a.m. So he went home to try and get some sleep. I woke up, I think it was 8 a.m., 8:30. I remember coming out of the sedation and having this tube in my throat. And I remember just wanting to rip this thing out of my throat and being like, what is going on? And obviously I couldn't talk. So I was trying to sign to the nurse being like, what's happening? What's going on? But my brain and my hands weren't quite communicating. So I was like trying to do letters, but they weren't the right one. So it was quite funny to me anyway. And so she ended up getting a paper and I was writing things like how long until I can get this tube out of my throat and all that kind of stuff. So it felt like forever, but finally they pulled this tube out. And I also had one up my nose. And so it took them maybe an hour before they took the one out of my nose. So that was fun. And then, Trent was let in pretty much straight away after I'd been woken up. And you could see the look on his face. He was just like, what the hell? Yeah. And that was my first thought as well, just being like, what happened? Like, I was fine 1 minute and then the next minute it was crazy. So I remember calling Emma like 10 minutes after I'd woke up being like, what happened? And she went through it with me. And because a doctor had come and spoken to me as well when I was just woken up, but I don't remember what he was saying because I was still out of it. But apparently I had lost about 2.5 litres of blood while they, before or after they had taken the placenta out. So I had to, obviously they had to manually remove my placenta, and then I had 2 bags of blood transfused in theatre after they did that. And that's when I woke up in the ICU. I still had a whole bunch of tubes coming out of me. And I felt okay at that stage in the early morning. And then Trent was staying with me that whole time. And then about 11 o'clock, I started to feel really funny again. And I started to lose my hearing and I couldn't feel my fingertips or my toes. It all felt really numb. And so that's when, and my blood pressure as well. That was an issue. That's mainly why I was staying in the ICU, because I was on medication to keep my blood pressure up. It wouldn't stay up on its own. And so, I had to go through another 2 bags of blood while I was in ICU that day. And they kept saying that I could get up and go to the shower and we'll be back up on the ward soon, that sort of thing. So I was getting my hopes up, but because I had to get the blood transfused and because my blood pressure wouldn't stay up, I had to stay there for 2 nights. And so, that was a really shitty experience, I think. Being stuck in a bed, like I could not move. I had, obviously wires coming out of both arms. And then I had, on my legs, they put some sort of like compression things. Like it was like I was attached to this machine that would blow up and then, to stop blood clotting or something. So, and then I was still covered. I hadn't showered since the birth. So my hands were covered in blood. and yeah, like I couldn't go up and shower, so they had to sponge bath me, which was quite embarrassing. And yeah, in ICU you have a nurse that's with you 24/7. Obviously they're working shifts, so yeah, there was 2 nurses with me throughout the day, and they're literally at your door or the curtain, so you have no privacy. So that was a whole new experience for me. And I didn't want my kids to come and see me down there, and then I didn't want Jack obviously to be down there because they have sick people down there. So I was there alone for quite a bit of time, and obviously Trent hadn't slept either, so he left for a while to go and sleep while I was obviously recovering. And then yeah, so I was there all Thursday, all day Friday, and then finally on Friday, Kate came down and visited me, and then I also let my kids come down because I was feeling a bit better. They let me sit in a chair. That was such a huge milestone, which was so bizarre. But yeah, so that was good. And then on Saturday, they finally let me go up onto the labour ward, and even still then I think I was a bit like pushing through, because I remember I couldn't really stand up. Trent came to help me, but even when I was in the labour ward and having a shower, I had to sit down because I couldn't. It was quite dizzy, but I was like, no, I'm getting out of here. So yeah, on Saturday afternoon, they said that we could go home. Oh, and also this whole time, every 3 hours, I had midwives coming down to help me express the colostrum, and then they would run it up to Jack. And yeah, so Jack and Kate and Chris were able to, well, Kate was able to stay up on the labour ward. So yeah, they were there in the hospital. And yeah, we were communicating pretty much the whole time as well, like sending messages.
Yeah, thank God for Facebook messages. Yeah, we were messaging the whole time, and yeah, Jack and I were up there, and in the labour ward, yeah, they had me listed as a guest of yours, and yeah, the hospital staff were really amazing.
Yeah,
they were really nice and accommodating, and
especially on last minute, like they had absolutely no notice of us coming there.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, apart from us being there that early
day,
morning, thinking that, you know, we'll be back in a few days,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
But it was so lucky that we did do that as well, because I think emails had already gone out because we'd said how many people can we have in the labour ward, and this is a surrogacy, so it's a bit different, and so there'd already been emails, and she'd already called you going, oh yeah, okay, so we've decided that you can have this many people in the labour room and things like that. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, Jack and I were up in the maternity ward, and we were getting mixed messages about Michelle. So one minute I'd have a midwife coming in and say, no, Michelle's doing really well, she's doing great, she's going to bounce back, and women do amazing things in this scenario. And then I think must have been just after Trent had seen you or something like that, like around 8 a.m, they're like, no, Michelle's really serious, like she's still intubated and all this other, and you know, it's really sad. I was like, what the, yeah, that's not the story I'd been given for the last 4 hours, like 4 or 5 hours. So that was really scary. And then, and yeah, I'd just been told, no, Michelle's still intubated, it's really serious. And then I think it was 10 minutes later, and you messaged me, and it was, how are you going? Was the message that she sent me. I'm like, what the no? It's about how you're going.
Yeah. Because when I had woken up, I felt quite good, and then I took a turn, and then so it was quite interesting. Yeah, crazy, but
and yeah, for Jack and I, Jack couldn't leave the hospital until Michelle was well enough to sign to say that he could leave, or until she could leave, because
I had to give consent, but I could only consent while I was well, and while I was in ICU, I wasn't well, so it wasn't until I got to the labour ward that I was like, okay, we can go home now. So
but that's okay. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for Jack and I. It was quite nice actually getting meals. So.
Not having to cook.
And
they clean around you.
Just come and bring stuff.
But it was funny because every time like we'd have a new midwife or a new doctor come, or nurse or something come on, they'd be like, oh, so tell us all about the surrogacy, and you'd answer the same questions over and over again. I was like, oh, we should have printed out the frequently asked question.
Should have bought my FAQ.
Funny. But yeah, so finally so Saturday afternoon was when we decided to go, and I had to wait till Leilani finished. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to wait till Leilani finished school so that my kids could come up and see baby, just so they could really make that connection about me not being pregnant with him anymore and him going home with Kate. So I think that was nice for them to see him. I think they weren't really that interested. They're just like, okay, cool, and then went off on their business. But yeah, so we ended up going home, and that was it, really.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the birth.
Yeah. So,
and then you're feeling a lot better.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
as soon as I got home, I think the recovery was like, it took me another day that I felt really bad, and then after that I was up and about and felt good.
And they're not expecting any long-term or
No.
even short-term effects
Yeah.
or anything. Yeah.
Oh, they did give me grief about the placenta in the hospital, so I did want to keep my placenta and encapsulate it, but then I kept having doctors being like, no, you can't do that, we need to send it out for testing to see why this happened. And then we're like, well, you know, yeah. And so we ended up having one doctor being like, you can take it home. So we finally did take it home, but then they did say that there was a heap of calcification on the placenta. We don't know why, but then somebody did mention that a lot of IVF babies are like that.
Oh.
So, but then obviously there is some like a lot of IVF babies who are not like that as well. So who really knows why it happened? But in the end, I'm glad that we were in the hospital. It could have been a lot worse if we were at home. So it did all work out. But
Yeah. And Jack's weight as well was almost exactly what the ultrasound said it was as well. So
we were a bit like,
okay, they're sometimes right. Okay.
Yeah, because the doctor that who wouldn't sign off on the home birth, he had come to see me down in ICU on the second day that I was in there, and I was expecting him to be all like, I told you so, but nah, he was really nice, and he was the one that said, no, you can take your placenta home, and
do what you want with that.
Yeah, so yeah, it was nice in the end. But yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do the questions now that I asked you guys to send in. We'll start with, is there anything that you would have done differently? And so for me, I think if we had known that this was going to happen, then I would have planned a hospital birth.
Yeah.
That's really as simple as that. I think
Yeah.
it would have been a lot nicer if we had actually planned it properly, but we couldn't have known.
And I suppose that could be a lesson learned. In terms of, or for other people out there, is even if you're planning a home birth, make sure you plan your backup things as well. So
because I literally had not even had a hospital bag packed. So while we were in labour, Trent was throwing things into a bag.
Yeah.
Not that I used it because I was in ICU, but anyways,
But we hadn't even visited the hospital until that day. You know, as much as we'd gone to the hospital to do that doctor visit, so they had our records on, so it wasn't too big of a thing. But that's all we did.
Yeah.
In hindsight, maybe that could have been good. But it actually worked out.
It was still pretty good for last minute notice. So how often have we caught up post giving birth? So a lot, really.
Yeah.
Every
second or third day, I think.
Yeah.
Every third,
At least twice a week it's been. In the first few days it was quite often.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be good. Why did you transfer to hospital? I think we covered that because of
the bleeding and the growth.
They wouldn't sign off for the hospital because of the scan, the tummy size.
Yeah.
Who did you call first when you knew labour was happening? So we had been in contact the whole time, obviously, because we were in hospital the day before. So Kate was there with me for the most part, and then I was messaging Kate, Emma, Belle and Zoe simultaneously throughout the day. So everybody really. I think I had at one stage just copied and pasted the same message to everybody.
Snapchat.
With home births, how many centimetres dilated do you need to be to get in the water? So this isn't...
I'm not sure.
Yeah, this isn't applicable to us, but I don't think there is a centimetres anyway. It's just when you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I know Zoe was saying that it will seem like it's a really late in the labour stage to get into the water, or Zoe or one of the midwives.
When you're in active labour.
Active labour, that's when they get you into the water.
And when your midwife is there, don't get into the water before your midwife is not there.
Yeah.
Aside from therapy done prior, did any part of you feel like you wanted to keep the baby? Not at all. No. I think this sounds really mean, but I think I was more interested in seeing Kate. That sounds really... Well, they were sending me pictures and stuff like that, but I think, I'd been like, Kate, come and visit me. But I think we were in contact a lot, so and they were sending me pictures regularly, so I was like, all good. Because a lot of people have asked me that, obviously I didn't see baby until the second or third day after giving birth. So that must have been difficult, but I think, I knew that he was safe and that he was happy with his parents, so it didn't really bother me that much. Who got to hold Jack first? So like I said, me and Zoe had like untangled him from his cord, and then I held him. Then once Chris had cut the cord, I passed him to Jack, to Kate. Sorry. How did your family / Kate's family cope when I was in pain?
Yeah, I cried. I think Chris and I were really just in shock and awe the whole time, in incredible amazement of the strength and courage that Michelle had. So, yeah. For us, for me, it was, and I'm sure it was all over my face.
Yeah, listen, I don't really remember seeing you much in my labour, because I felt like I had like a triangle around me. Like at all times, I felt like Trent was in front of me, Emma was on one side, and then you were on one side as well. So I really liked that. That was pretty cool. I remember just constantly being surrounded. Yeah. That felt nice.
Yeah. And Trent was there just saying really positive affirmations and stroking your arm, and you've got this babe. And
so I feel like with Trent during the labour, obviously when I was in pain, he was pretty good because he had seen it all before. I think it was just afterwards, obviously, that it was a bit like, what the hell? So
yeah, of course.
How did Kate feel during your labour? She's already answered that. How did I feel when Jack went home and I stayed? So like we said, Jack couldn't be released until I was able to consent. So he was there still. And like I said, I was getting photo updates, and we were talking a lot. So it was good, I think. It didn't bother me. And we since then we've regularly caught up. So what was the moment like when Jack was born? Amazing, really. It's hard to explain, because I feel like the birth was incredible, and then like just snapping out of it. That was pretty cool. Just it all stopping, and then
it was amazing. I think as well, it was as much as it was a last minute space that we'd organised, and the affirmations were kind of haphazardly put up there. There was so much love and support in that room, and the energy was amazing. Everyone was just purely there for you, and to
I feel like it was incredible. It couldn't have gone like, especially I'm so thankful that the birth was amazing because of everything that happened afterwards. But it was so cool. I'll forever like watch back on the videos and stuff like that, and just be like, holy shit, we did this. So cool.
It really is amazing. It's just incredible.
So I think that's it. That's all. Oh, one question I do keep getting is if I'll do it again. And as much as I would love to, Trent's asked me not to, because it has been obviously traumatic for him. And we don't know if this could happen again in future pregnancies. And so at this stage, it's a no from me, which is really sad. I think that we had our counselling session on the weekend, and that was, I think, the hardest part of this whole journey, being because we've had such an incredible lead up to it, and such an incredible pregnancy, incredible birth, but that little shitty bit at the end has put a stopper on any future stuff. So that's been the hardest part for me to really come to terms with, because I would have loved to have done it again, but that's where the cookie crumbles, I guess. But anyways. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much, Kate, for being here.
Oh, thank you.
But we will talk to you soon. I don't know, there is no next video, I don't think, but anyways, if you want to watch my birth video or our Q&A that we did literally the week that Jack was born, I'll link them down below and up here somewhere as well. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.